So, it's the main quest complete. And in terms of field guide challenges, I've completed 93%. So I believe I am well placed to give a verdict on the game. I guess ultimately the best part of the game is the design of Hogwarts. And now, a month after launch, when I can finally run it with ray tracing and shit, I have to say it's probably the best looking game I've ever played. Better than Cyberpunk, better than Control. Once you get the lights and shadows and shit working from ray tracing, that there's so much detail. It just looks fucking fantastic. Inside Hogwarts and Hogsmeade. Because out in the Highlands or whatever, in most of the game, like territory-wise, even though maybe you don't spend, or at least don't need to spend most of your time out there, I mean, the effects are all there, but there's nothing else. The open world is very open, very empty, very boring. I guess better just ignored. And then, like, it largely can be ignored, so you can just not do 100 fucking Merlin puzzles. You have to work with a smaller inventory, but, you know, well. Speaking of inventory, probably the worst part of the game is not just inventory, but everything related to UI, and sometimes even to UX. As in, the UI is some kind of console garbage, like you only having 4 spells at a time available when you need to use way more than that usually in the fights. The menus being a pain to navigate. The, like, selling items requiring you to hold down the button for each item for like half a second. And, well, as the UI and UX kind of crosses, but in terms of just playing the game, like the experience, it's impressive how consistently they've inserted NPCs. I'm counting the flu bitch as an NPC for this as well, which is far from the only one, who repeat the same lines at you ad nauseum. It feels like nobody fucking quality tested the game. How could anyone play any amount of this game and not realize that spamming the same lines again and again is fucking infuriating to the player? I know I'm not alone in this. I've seen many complaints on Reddit as well. Like, what? Why? What are you doing? Also, kind of on the low end is the writing. You can see like bits and pieces of good ideas, and some side stories are kind of cool, but a lot of it is just garbage. Some quests just straight up don't make sense. Sometimes characters make insane like heel turns, like Sebastian, just out of freaking nowhere. It's like, oh, because magic, I guess. Like, I don't know. One of my biggest problems with writing, though, is not even what they wrote, but like how they went about it in a kind of like big picture way, where there isn't a story about the main character in this game at all. Like, functionally, it doesn't matter. I get that they wanted to let everyone like insert themselves in the game but there is no real RPG in here. You can't like build a character and have them interact with others, like make friends, make enemies, make whatever. You don't make any, well, almost any choices of that kind at all. You can like pick the ending of some quests, I guess, but that's just minor. It doesn't build you a character arc. It doesn't create a story for you. It doesn't change your alliances in any meaningful way. There's none of that. The self-insertion part just doesn't work. So all we have is this blank 5th year, unexplainedly just inserted here in the 5th year, who just kind of travels through all these parts of other stories and doesn't really have one of his own. I think it would have been much better if we just had a pre-made character. They could have done like I don't know, one male, one female version, or but you can select their pronouns separately, so that it wouldn't matter. Like it really doesn't matter what the gender your character is, and you can make a story with like a character who is a real character, but still the gender doesn't really play a big role in it. I mean, it's a fucking wizarding world. You barely need to change anything. Probably even nothing but the model. So that wouldn't have been a problem. I think the reason we have this blank slate of a character is that I wanted to do the self-insertion thing. And yeah, it just doesn't work. What else is there? Combat. A huge missed opportunity. I like the basics of combat, and I really liked a lot of the boss fights and unique monsters. I guess those were kind of the boss fights. What I didn't like was how most fights were. I don't know if they're any different on lower difficulty levels. I was playing on hard, which is the hardest one. And it felt like I'm not allowed to use a lot of my tools in a fight. One, because I'm always fighting against the different spell sets, because yeah, I can only have 4 available at the same time. I have to switch between them. It's a giant pain in the ass. But also the part where the game spams waves of enemies at me. So there's constantly someone attacking me, meaning I can't, for example, stop and use the parry plus riposte, kind of the stupefy thing. I can't do the basic attacks, which are often a big part of your damage in smaller fights. I can't stop for that, because to do any damage you need to do the full 4 attacks. The first 3 do nothing, and I'm constantly under attack because there's constantly like 5+ enemies around, and I just have to keep dodging. So that's what all the big fights devolved into. It's just dodging around whatever arena I'm in, getting in like ancient magic throws where I can, and fighting with the UI to get some of my actual spells off whenever possible. Plus, all the enemies were okay. Almost all the enemies, like by count, probably 95% of the actual enemies you fight, were all doing the same thing. They were basically launching instant attacks at you. It can be a spell, it can be the goblin teleporting to you and hitting you with some axe. It can be an Inferus. I don't know what a single of that is. But in any case, they also have like a dash hit. Everything has some kind of small wind up and then an almost instant hit. I don't know why. Might have something to do with how every attack in the game, except for like a couple of AoEs that are few and far between, almost every attack in the game is tracking. Like, you can't just step aside, even from a fucking troll's giant club. It doesn't matter if you step aside, you need to dodge. So it would get disjointed, and otherwise, like, the club hits the ground way to the side of you and you still get hit. I guess they, I don't know, they couldn't get the hitboxes right, or they didn't want to, like, I don't know, it just, there's the makings of a good fight system, and then it's just not there. There's just a dodge fest. So, disappointing. Oh, and on top of it all, even on the hardest difficulty, it was fucking easy. I didn't use most of my really powerful abilities for almost any fight. And by really powerful abilities, I mean the potions, which when upgraded, you can get like invulnerability for, I don't know, like 15 seconds or whatever. Like, I think it's double damage or some huge damage buff. You can start a storm around you that hits everyone with lightning, and like just run around invulnerable with the lightning storm hitting everyone. Yeah, I didn't do that, but I could have. I could have just cleared all the non-boss fights with that. I don't know, maybe that's what I was supposed to do, but in that case, like, what was the hard even? I know, it wasn't that hard with the dodging either. Yeah. Basically disappointing the fight system. And I did like it at the start before I realized what is gonna be the whole game. Yeah, I think I kind of went over everything I had to say about this game. Overall, it's still pretty enjoyable play. This is gonna be the one time I'm gonna say that the graphics play a huge part in it being enjoyable because of how fucking beautiful Hogwarts is. Hogsmeade as well. Both of them look amazing. And you don't need to do the open world bullshit if you don't want to. And I would advise nobody to fucking do that. Yeah, just look at this shit. It's beautiful. And the whole of Hogwarts is like at this level. So that alone, I think makes it worth playing. Because you've spent enough time running around here, enjoying it. Yeah, this won't age well at all. I guess I'm gonna give it like a 7, but that's probably one of those points is just for being a Harry Potter game, because yeah, I did grow up with that, and I like the setting. No matter how dumb it is, it's just enjoyable. And probably 2 of those points is the graphics that will age, as most
So
graphics
Hogwarts
do,
lives on, free.
not so well. I assume in a few years. But yeah, for now it's a decent 7 for me at least.